Welcome everyone to 2015 MEP's Week 7 Top 7 Talk. And last week, 6-1. Yes, heartbreaking. 4 yards from a perfect week. This week's guest is going to be Mike Vuja, our resident Michigan State fan. I'm going to give him a buzz right here. There's no other way I'd greet you, Michael Vuja. How you doing?
I'm good. That's my jam.
I know.
Where did you find that?
Oh, it's all over the internet, man. There's a YouTube clip on the '88 Rose Bowl champion Spartans as we are in Michigan State week here. How you doing? Welcome to the.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm ready to talk some football. I'm ready to hear your thoughts on the big game this week that has certainly changed in dynamic since before the year. And let's get going here with one of your favorite conferences. My number 7 pick of the week, the other Spartans from California, the San Jose State Spartans taking on San Diego State. I got them covering 2 points as my number 7 pick. What do you think?
I got nothing on this game. Did no research on the San Diego State-San Jose State game. I'll defer to you on this one.
All right, I'll take it. Number 6, I got Hotty Toddy God Almighty covering 9.5 at Memphis. Do you think your SEC dislike will lead you to pick Memphis to handle this spread versus Ole Miss this weekend?
Yeah, I like Memphis this week. It's one of the rare occasions that we actually see the SEC jump outside to their home stadiums and go on the road in a non-conference game. I think you and I have talked about this already this year. There's 7 games this year where the SEC actually goes on the road in the non-conference.
Yeah, I know.
A true road game, and they're playing Memphis, who you think might be your Cavaliers' next head coach.
It could be. Justin Fuente.
This is a big game. I keep hearing all week, if you want to go to Oxford, Mississippi for the game, you got to fly, or to go to a game at Ole Miss, you got to fly into Memphis. Like, they're that close. So, I think Memphis is going to be up for this game, and I don't think Ole Miss is all they're cracked up to be. They beat Bama, but they were +5 in turnovers. How many teams lose when they're +5 turnovers in anything?
It's a pretty good point.
I'm saying Memphis has a shot to win outright.
Wow.
But definitely to cover 9.
Okay. I think the overwhelming talent on both sides of the ball will slow down Memphis enough. I mean, what I saw when Memphis played Cincinnati was a lot of scoring by a Cincinnati team that had a freshman quarterback that I don't really truly believe is that very good. So we'll see. It'll definitely be an interesting game, and obviously if Memphis wins that game, then all of a sudden you start talking about Memphis as one of the teams to make one of those big bowls, and you start the arguments with one of the other teams I got coming up here with can an undefeated Group of 5 team edge their way into the Final Four in a weird year, and this is shaping up to be a bit of a weird year. So we'll get to it.
I just don't think that can happen. What do you think?
I think it depends. I mean, if you're an undefeated Memphis team and you beat a 10-win Ole Miss team as one of the non-conference games you win, and then if Houston's 11-1 and you beat because you beat them, or I don't know if they're in the same they'd face each other in the or something like that. I think there's ways to it, but I think it would take a very screwy year because I don't think you're keeping out a Power 5 conference champion with one or 0 losses. You would have to have multiple ones with 2 losses to really get to that.
I don't think it could happen this year. I think it has to take some team that comes in with preseason highs and they're already ranked
right.
12 to start the year. Somebody's going to have to come to the back of the pack this year. I just don't think it could happen.
Well, yeah, and
it
was disappointing when Boise had the one and TCU had those really great years that were really in the middle of a year that had about a bunch of teams that were undefeated, and they didn't get not one of these years where there's definitely a chance that they can get there. But I'm going to number 5. I'm not going to be stupid. I'm taking Alabama covering the 4 at Texas A&M. I know Texas A&M runs a similar style offense to what Ole Miss does, but you made my point earlier with all the turnovers is the real reason that nobody really talked about why Bama lost that game. And they beat them 59-0 last year. I know that doesn't necessarily matter, and I know that's going to fire up A&M, but it's also probably going to make them pretty confident knowing that they shut them out last year. And if they can shut them out, that means they can hold them down to a certain number. And I just think Bama's too good for A&M. A&M, pretty good team, but I don't think they're on the same level as as their record shows right now.
No, I see eye to eye with you here. I think Bama's probably the best team in the country right now, and whether or not they make the playoff, I mean, that loss is going to ding them, but I don't know. Special teams got them, the turnovers got them, and I think they're starting to get this quarterback situation figured out, and they're probably the best well-rounded team in the country. A&M's a good team, but they're not I don't see them as an elite team this year, and I'm kind of with you. They had their number last year, and I think Bama beats them pretty good. I think it's more than 4.
Yeah, I think it's similar. It's similar to the Georgia game, except for the fact that A&M had played Arizona State already, so that kind of people look at that and they're like, yeah, they beat a pretty good team, but I don't think Arizona State's that great. So
Arizona State's an enigma. They're up and down. They're hard to read. It was a nice win, but I don't know. I think Bama's on a different level.
I agree. Number 4, I'm taking Texas Tech, covering 30.5. Coach Handsome at Kansas. And this is 100% because Texas Tech can score a lot. They can't stop anybody, but Kansas can't score on, if you put together the Commons Football League, 1996, if you put that team out there right now, I don't know if Kansas could score 10 points on them. What do you think about?
Sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know if Kansas would cover 30 on anybody at this point.
And like last week, that spread seemed so big with Baylor, and Baylor had it covered at halftime.
It wasn't even close. Did you see the crowd shot for Baylor visiting Kansas last year?
It wasn't pretty.
It was. They announced 25,000 there. I would be surprised if they had 5.
Yeah, the Kansas.
Kansas is the case for relegation in college football. Their program is horrible.
I'm not sure if you stuck Kansas in the MAC, Sun Belt Conference USA, or AAC, if they would finish more than in the top 5. 6.
So you can make a case for Kansas being one of the 5 worst teams in all of college football, and they're not going to cover. I'm with you on Texas Tech. It's not even a statement on Texas Tech. It's all on Kansas. They're terrible. Hey, what about if Kansas played Texas Tech in basketball?
Oh, that would be a little better.
I'm giving you 30.5 points. Are you taking Texas Tech?
30.5 points, yes. That's a lot. I mean, and even as bad as Texas Tech has been in basketball, for most of the last, since Bobby Knight was there, 30.5 points is a lot in basketball, especially with the way teams put in the backups and walk-ons on.
Kansas has to be, the biggest disparity between football and basketball in the country.
I would think so. I mean, there's...
probably the biggest disparity in cheating, too. I don't know if anybody cheats more in basketball. There's no way that's cheating in football. So.
Well, if they're cheating in football, then they need to look into it. The good news is they're paying Charlie a couple million this year to not coach him, so that's another great. Notre Dame and Kansas have that in common in football. They both are still paying Charlie Weiss both more than what Brian Kelly's making this year. But we are going to come. Yeah. The number 3 pick is going to involve arguably, probably the worst or second worst team in the country. I got Georgia Southern covering 27 versus New Mexico State. New Mexico State's given up an absurd amount of points this year, somewhere between 40 and 45 a game, depending on the game, against bad opponents. Georgia Southern, with their option, I don't know if they'll stop scoring until they just decide they don't want to stop scoring. So what do you think about Georgia Southern in 27 against New Mexico State?
I got nothing on this game either, Bobby.
Hey, you remember Georgia Southern? Georgia Southern beat the heck out of PJ and row the boat.
What's that?
Georgia Southern rolled up row the boat pretty bad a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, they did. I saw that week 2, I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
But I don't know enough about this one to give any meaningful stuff. You're the expert on these little conferences, so
I know you're not a fan of.
You.
We'll get you to the the group of 5s one day.
We'll save our time for all these. There's a million good games this week, so we'll save our time on that.
Number 2, I got Boise covering 9.5 at Utah State. The Boise team I've watched the last couple weeks is back to being the Boise team that can score a ton of points, and their defense is really good. I mean, they embarrassed us here, and I don't think we're as bad as that score was, but they showed that they can manhandle a below average Power 5 team. I think with Utah State not really being tested since Chucky Keaton's been out, and they've looked bad in a couple games against decent teams they've played this year. Think Boise has any problems covering 10 against Utah State?
I got Utah State.
Wow.
This is Boise's second week in a row on the road. Freshman quarterback, tough place to play at Utah State.
It's true.
So we got a matchup of backup quarterbacks going. But here's the big thing that I noticed on your top 7. You hate Farmers.
I do hate Farmers.
You have 7 picks this week, and 3 of them you picked against Aggies.
That's a good little tidbit there.
So the big question comes to, what does Bobby Mangler have against Farmers?
I have a lot against Farmers that it should not be discussed over this.
No, I didn't even think about that. No, this could be a good game. I think that Utah State's played pretty well. I did look, and they have a couple of common opponents. They both played them pretty evenly. Boise's coming off the slaughtering of Colorado State, but I think Utah State's a pretty solid team at home. Boise's second road game in a row. I just think it could be
Hey, you can disagree. I don't have a problem. My strategy the last couple weeks, and it worked last week with the top 7, has been to lean on better teams. And pretty much everybody in this top 7 this week that I picked has been playing pretty good football, and I think we'll see if it pays off another week. It comes to the number 1 team, which is another team we were talking about that might go undefeated and probably not make the playoff, but definitely be there for the group of 5 or whatever it's called spot. Houston covering 17 at Tulane. This is 100% because I watched Temple pound Tulane last week, and Temple does not have much of an offense, and I know Houston's going to score points. I don't know how Tulane's going to score enough points to hang within 17. What do you think about Tom Herman and the
Yeah, I like Houston
Cougars?
too. Tom Herman, I don't know if I like Houston more because Houston's been really good this year or because Ohio State struggled so much, but
Right.
Tom Herman's obviously one of the rising stars this year in college football. I would be not shocked if he ends up taking a big. I would think he's going to be an in-demand name after 1 year in Houston.
Right.
One of these jobs that's coming open. It seems like the jobs are coming open by the day, and this guy's making himself look pretty good. Don't pooch to Temple though. Temple's a pretty good team this year.
Oh, I agree. I'm just saying that offensively, I mean, Temple only put up I think 25 against UMass, who's it's optional to play defense at UMass. And they just steamrolled Tulane last week like they had, no business being on the same field as them. And that's kind of how I feel like Houston and Temple are on the same plane. And I thought the line was going to be 23, 24, and 17, 19 range. It seems really low. So a little too much credit for Tulane, if you're asking me. But
I agree with you. I go Houston also.
in the background here, we've been playing some classic Michigan State games. We just watched the T.J. Duckett touchdown that I know is Dan Geider's favorite play in Michigan history.
I have a fun fact about that game.
Absolutely. What do you got?
You'll appreciate this. This is one of 2 times in Trevor Vasello's life that he cried due to a sporting event.
Oh wow!
Yes.
Literally tears.
That game.
He was crying.
Huh?
He was crying tears.
Tears, real tears.
Oh my gosh!
T.J. Duckett tears. Yes.
T.J. Duckett.
Poker to Duckett.
T.J. Duckett is not the only person to ever make him cry, but he's definitely the only one from a Spartan Michigan game. But